This program is brought to you by Monflow, ITAR Innovative Technology, Real Root Supplements, Pro Privacy, Goud 999 en VRB, van eenmanszaak naar BV.
And if you do not feel a little bit of risk, usually it means that you're not speaking the truth. Totalitarian systems always destroy themselves. They destroy themselves before they destroy you or all the people who go against the system. The most important and the most dangerous enemy is your own ego. When you allow it to grow too strong, it will kill you. So totalitarianism is a virus that is so deadly that it kills the people who allow it to enter their psychological system.
They are lying to you and they are controlling you.
That's your answer. We are beyond the tipping point.
During the battle for science in February this year, we brought some of the most courageous and outspoken international voices of our time to the Netherlands. Names such as Del Bigtree, Peter McCullough, Susharit Bhakti, and many others shared their perspectives on the state of science, health, media, and the societal developments we are all witnessing today. In addition to their appearances on stage, we recorded exclusive interviews. In this series, you now have the opportunity to watch these conversations. Today, we offer you American journalist Del Bigtree, who spoke with Mattias Desmet, a Belgian professor in clinical psychology and author of many important books they tried to ban from the university in Ghent, Belgium. But there is more to tell. And Del Bigtree asked the right questions. Enjoy. Professor Mattias Desmet, up close and personal.
This is the battle for science.
Mattias Desmet, just want to thank you for taking the time today. I'm actually looking forward to this interview.
Thank you for having me on.
Yeah. I would say, I did many interviews throughout COVID, and I think I said it to you at the time, but your book, The Psychology of Totalitarianism, and my interview with you, describing what was happening around us, the people that seemed to be, caught up in the pandemic and all of its issues and the vaccines and all of it, that they were hypnotized. That word, and I think mass formation, or however we wanted to put it, but it helped me understand and forgive in many ways the world that was around me. So starting there, is there anything that you wrote then that you would change now? Do you have any change in perspective, or are you just building upon where you were at with that? And maybe quickly, for anyone that hasn't read the book, understand that perspective.
Is there anything I wrote that I would consider wrong now? I will be as honest as possible.
Yeah.
There are a few mistakes in the book, minor mistakes. But apart from that, no.
Yeah.
When I'm just being honest, no. I wouldn't. I think I still. I could articulate certain things in a little bit more sophisticated way now. But no, I still think that at a psychological level, that was what's going on, and it is. During the corona crisis, and it still is what is going on. Like, we could see how this process of mass formation, this mass hypnosis during the corona crisis, that it was replaced, for instance, by a similar process at the level of the war in Ukraine, for instance. So I think the same processes continue, sometimes with a different narrative. But basically, they are still the same processes, which start from the fact that human beings since modernity got more and more lonely and vulnerable to propaganda, vulnerable to this phenomenon I described as mass formation. So I think I would still think along similar lines, yes.
And so given that that's the case, and I expect that to be the case, and I would say the same thing about my reporting. I wouldn't say I had it perfect, but I wouldn't. I mean, I stand. Everything still holds up. The way the problems, how they occurred, but there seems to be, in some ways it was easier in the middle of COVID. A lot of people talk about waking up, but we had, for people waking up, I suppose our own mass formation, right? We had a real enemy. We had people making the vaccine. We had something to fight against.
A new
we had
social
that brought
bond
us together. We had a social bond. And you said we can't let that happen in our interview. We cannot become, we can't just shift from their psychological hypnosis to our own version of it. So now I feel like right now in this moment, in some ways we're very lost. The people that were waking up, well, where's the movement? What's happened to it? Some people say Robert Kennedy Jr.'s HHS secretary said the job is done. But you say it's still continuing. So I guess my question would be, what do we do with the COVID pandemic? Do we keep focusing on it and talking about it as a story to understand who we are and what we need to do? Do we need to move on? What does moving on mean?
I really do believe that we should continue to articulate our opinion about COVID. Yes, it's not finished yet. And I mean, like, we should really try to understand what happened there. And in my analysis, I don't believe what happened there was only a psyop or something, or just some evil people who were just manipulating the world. It was when you really try to understand what happened, and when you really try to see the complexity of what happens there, you will ultimately, I think, conclude that what happened there was a very complex phenomenon, which in the end boils down to the fact that there is something fundamentally wrong with the way in which we view reality, the way in which we live our lives. So ultimately, I think the problem is not one or another elite. It's part of the problem. This elite and all these global institutions, definitely, it's part of the problem. But the reason why such an elite and such institutions emerged in our society is much, much deeper. The real fundamental reason has something to do with the fact that somewhere in the 17th century, we collectively started to believe that the human being is a biological being. It's like a machine, a material machine, in that we, as a human being, with our rational thinking, can understand everything, can control our lives, can live our lives, can manipulate everything, and can create can be God in a universe that we control completely. I think that's the main problem. And that problem, it's not only the elite which thinks according to this mindset, it's so much more. Our entire society is in the grip of this kind of thinking, including to a certain extent ourselves. Time and time again, I realize that without knowing it, I lapse into this kind of materialist thinking. So I believe that when we focus too much on this, or when we analyze what happened there during the corona crisis as only the problem of an evil elite, we will always fail to see that we were part of the problem, and we will fail to contribute this little part of the solution we can really contribute, meaning exactly this part of evil that was in ourselves. So I think we definitely shouldn't finish analyzing what happened there, but we should continue analyzing it, trying to understand it better, and I hope we find the courage to realize that we were part of the problem. As you said, like, we had this major mass formation, definitely, without a shade of a doubt. I think there was a major mass formation in which everything gravitated around this dangerous virus, and that we had to fight, and people really believed that narrative, and were manipulated by the global institutions. But there was this counter mass formation, definitely, where we also started to construct a narrative or started to believe in a narrative in which we also had this one object of anxiety, this evil elite, which manipulated everything, and in which actually the fundamental processes were more or less the same as the processes that were happening in the mainstream mass formation. So I think we have a lot of work to do, and that we have to begin with ourselves. That's no.
It's interesting, and it's something that I think, I said early on when I made Vaxxed that, I worked for the medical talks of the doctors.
Mm-hmm.
I watched how we made people afraid of flu outbreaks and cancer, and that's how, it was part of what we did. And I would say I just took, with Vaxxed, I just took how I'd been trained to use fear to, get through to people. It's the easiest emotion to use in media to achieve a goal. So Vaxxed scares the hell out of people about vaccinating. And I suppose I'm a part of the process of scaring people the hell out of the elite that you're listening to, the doctors that you're bowing down to. They are not, they don't have your best interests in mind, certainly not the pharmaceutical industry. That's behind them. But as you say this, I think I would, what I find is we're going to come up short of the solution or short of evolution, as long as we really just keep playing the same game, right? I think that the mistake, if I've made one, or where I think I need to evolve to as a media person, is we don't talk about a solution. We are only making you afraid of the problem. I keep saying, I think we're running from something.
Yes.
We're not running to anything. And so we're just as lost as we've been. So when you say to anybody, me or anyone in society right now, we have to analyze that. We're trained to analyze the problem, and that problem is really essentially by a comfort level outside of ourselves, is it not?
Yeah.
How do you take a people that have been trained by an education system, even trained by religion, that's evil, I'm pursuing good, but always puts the problem as an enemy, even a Satan outside of ourselves? How is self-reflection the most important thing to happen, and how do we actually figure out how to do that?
De uitzendingen van Lighthouse TV bevatten reclames. En ik weet dat sommigen van jullie daar last van hebben. Toch is het belangrijk dat ze er zijn. Want zonder deze inkomsten zou Lighthouse nu niet bestaan. Maar er is goed nieuws. Want vanaf oktober starten we met het Lighthouse Insider account. Daarmee kijk je al onze programma's volledig reclamevrij. Krijg je korting op de webshop, events en krijg je toegang tot de aankoop van een Lighthouse TV token. Een micro-aandeel op de blockchain. Mooie ontwikkelingen dus, maar tot die tijd wil ik je vragen om begrip. Haak niet af als je reclames ziet, maar probeer om te denken. Iedere spot die je ziet helpt Lighthouse TV financieel vooruit. En draagt indirect bij aan ons onafhankelijke en kritische geluid. En dat is keihard nodig. Dank voor je steun.
Yes, let me start by saying that I'm confronted with exactly the same problem and the same choice when I'm writing a book. Like, I'm writing a new book now about the perversion of language in our culture, the rise of propaganda as the organizing principle. And while I'm writing, I constantly feel tempted to focus on all the cruelties of the last 200 years, because like if you show people the cruelty of a system, they will be fascinated by it. They will be anxious and they will want to know what they can do, and so on and so on. And I think, at least for me, focusing too much on the negative aspects is like taking the easy but the wrong way. I think you have to mention it, of course. You have to warn people a little bit. You have to warn them a little bit, like, watch out. If we go in that direction, we will end up in a dramatic catastrophe. Definitely, we have to show the danger of the processes that are going on now. But I agree. It's so much more important to show people the positive way, to show them like, look, that's a dangerous road, but there is a future for humanity there, which is very, very beautiful. And to give them an indication as to how we can choose for this beautiful future and how we can contribute to it. And if you ask me what you have to do in the first place, like what people can do, I've been repeating this time and time again. I really believe that at least that's how I experience what is going on. I believe that every day I find myself in a position, like maybe 5, 6, 7, 8 times a day, where I feel that I can make a choice. That I can make a choice between going in a direction of darkness or going to the light. And I feel that in the first place, at the level of the act of speech, I feel like, okay, I'm here in a situation where I can choose, or I can take the easy way and agree with everything that is said around me, or I can say, wait, guys, I don't agree actually, or something. When you're telling this narrative, something in me feels different. I cannot agree, and I will try to articulate where my opinion is different from yours. So, like, I think we should. I think that the most important principle is that we have to let ourselves be guided by sincerity and truth. At least that we have to try to articulate our opinion, also when it's different from what the people around us think. And that's everywhere. Sometimes I don't agree with the mainstream narrative, but very often I also don't agree with what the people in the freedom movement say. And you have to try to be sincere everywhere. And that's the point. In this way, I believe a real community will emerge. A real community of people who are not united because they have the same opinion, but because they are united, because no matter where, they try to be sincere. As soon as the group that is united by this ethical principle of sincerity, no matter what price you have to pay for it, that's very important. When you speak sincerely, you will always have to sacrifice something in this world, inevitably, because that's exactly what sincerity is. It means that you destroy illusions and you will pay a price for it in the world of appearances, inevitably. So we have to be willing, I think, to sacrifice something, to bring a sacrifice every time again. And in this way, the people who follow this principle, they will slowly start to resonate with each other. And a new group will emerge, which is not united by a certain opinion, but which is united by this ethical principle that no matter what you have to pay for your own opinion, you will try to articulate it, and that under all circumstances, you will be open to someone with a different opinion and listen in a sincere way. So that's what the most fundamental process is that is now going on, I think. It's a metaphysical process in which, on the one hand, we have masses of people united by the same, very often propagandized opinion. That's the one thing that happens. And on the other hand, we have the slow emergence of a real community, a group of people, which resonates with each other on the basis of this ethical principle of sincerity. And as soon as this community of people who unite through sincerity becomes energetically stronger than the propagandized masses or the counter masses, which are united on the basis of opinion, as soon as this group of people, this community, becomes energetically stronger, the era of totalitarianism is over and a new era of real humanity will start.
Okay, that resonates in many ways. And I, of course, tried to represent speaking your truth. I think that's, when people come to see me speak, fearless truth, just speak your mind. I do get concerned. So let me ask you, are there moments where, for instance, I'll hear a story about a mother or a father whose child falls out of a tree, breaks their arm. They go to the hospital, they get the arm set, and now inside the hospital setting, the doctor wants to give them a vaccine, a Tdap vaccine or whatever, tetanus or something, and the parent will just declare, we don't vaccinate. You know, that doesn't work. They get into a conversation. Sometimes people will walk into a hospital and immediately declare upon being there for whatever issue, I don't vaccinate. I don't, you know what I mean? And now a war starts. And now Child Protective Services in America is being called, maybe you're a bad parent, all of this. And so I try to say to people, and I guess I want to ask you if it's correct. I'll say, look, there's a time and a place to be completely transparent and honest. And there's times where you should probably be smart. Am I incorrect?
No, I completely agree. I mean, we cannot be sincere all the time.
Okay.
I mean, speaking the truth happens on certain specific privileged moments. And sometimes we have to keep up appearances. The human being is a being that cannot live without appearances, I think. For instance, we need an ego, but it shouldn't be the guiding principle. There should be something that controls it a little bit and that tells you, and now you have to speak the truth, no matter what price you will pay, at the level of your ego or in the world of appearance. So I completely agree. Of course, we cannot always be completely sincere and transparent. It's impossible. It's counterproductive and so on. That's not a problem. We all wear clothes. We all hide something. We all have an outer appearance which hides something of who we are. The problem starts when we get completely lost and imprisoned behind this outer appearance. And the problem starts when there are no moments anymore. When we say like, look, wait, this outer appearance is not the most important thing. There is something more important. Something that makes me willing to pay the price, even to die. To say what I think is the truth, but not at every moment. But you have to do it enough. It's so easy to always take the easy road and to say, I will shut up every time. And you know, it's like, I believe that trying to speak the truth all the time and the entire truth is something the ego is pushing you to.
So that also can be a crutch.
Of course.
to because I mean, in some ways, I suppose also you can lack empathy if your truth hurts. Or if it's, am I really bringing good to the situation? So the ego, I think it can just also use truth as a weapon, I suppose.
Yes.
Then how does a person, what is the governor that decides when is right? How do I
come again? What is the
like a governor? What is the inside of an engine that accelerates or decelerates or makes a, how do we make the correct decision in a moment? Where does that decision come from? How is that made?
That's a very good question, and I think nobody can answer it, but you can feel it. Like I have the impression, I'm organizing these workshops here in Belgium and Holland on the act of speech, the act of sincere speech, and in my experience, we have to grow. It's a process of growth. Like, and sincerity is like, the longer you practice this art of sincere speech, the better you will know now is the time to speak the truth, and now is the time to be wise and to remain silent. For antique Greek culture, there were 4 types of truth speech: the pareigia, bold speech in public space; prophecy, and then techne, the technical the truth speech, and then wisdom, which means knowing when you have to remain silent. So I think like nobody has a manual that can tell you when you have to speak and when you have to remain silent. But the more you do it and the more you practice in the art of sincere speech, the better you will know and realize, now I have to speak and now I have to shut up. And so I cannot provide anyone with a manual. And I don't know myself exactly when I have to speak and speak out. But the more I practice it, the more I feel that I am guided by something that will show me when I have to speak at the right moment. So there is a force outside of us which can guide us in a much better way than our own rational understanding can do. And that's what we have to try to rediscover, the fact that as a human being, actually we are subjected to something that is much bigger than ourselves. And we have to try to find that force. And without it, we are lost.
Yeah.
Yes.
So then perhaps certainly developing being conscious of whether you're making what choice you are making. I think we are just walking through most situations. We may be lying and not recognizing, or not telling our truth and not recognize it. We're hiding in a shell. Perhaps being aware, this is, as you've said, 7-8 times a day, you're forced with this moment where you're going to make a decision on whether I'm going to be completely truthful, be risky in this moment, but you're conscious of it. Does it start with, let me make this a conscious practice instead of walking through it and not being aware? Let me be aware, even if I'm not going to tell my whole truth right now, be aware that I just made that choice. Even count how many times today did I make which choice and how is that working in my life? If we make that a practice, then we start seeing the values in the moments and making better decisions as we go along.
Exactly. Yes, I completely agree. And like these moments can be very small moments. It can be like, sometimes I am in a shop and someone who is working in the shop does something for me and I feel grateful. And then suddenly I realize I will articulate it. I will tell that person, thank you for doing what you do, because I knew that you had so much work and you made some time for me to show me where this or that thing I wanted to buy was in the shop. So it's all these small moments of sincerity, which slowly transform who you are, and which slowly make you aware, which slowly make a light shine and show you the path you have to go step by step. I don't know what I will have to do in 1 year, but the more I practice in the art of sincere speech, the more I see very clearly what the next step is that I can take in the right direction, and I don't have to know what the end of the process is. So I think exactly as you say, like for me personally, I think my entire life I struggled and I tried to be sincere in a certain way, but throughout the last years, I really started to understand that it should be our first concern. That's what I was going to ask you. When we wake up,
what priority level should I
first
give?
As soon as you make it secondary, you will get lost. It's the first. We are, in the first place, ethical beings who have to be in touch with sincerity and truth in the first place. As soon as you make the king of secondary importance, you will lose the game. That's the point. It's the first thing. The first thing you have to ask is, how will I be a good human being? How will I be sincere today? And as soon as you make it of secondary importance, something will be fundamentally wrong.
Op dit exacte moment bewegen er miljoenen onzichtbare frequenties door jouw lichaam en de ruimte om je heen. Radiogolven, wifi, bluetooth, licht en geluid, magnetische velden en misschien zelfs signalen die we nog niet volledig begrijpen. Je ziet ze niet, je hoort ze niet, je voelt ze misschien onbewust, maar wat als ze meer invloed hebben op je leven dan je beseft? Wat is eigenlijk een frequentie? En als alles in het universum trilt, resoneert en een eigen frequentie heeft, welke rol spelen deze onzichtbare krachten dan in ons dagelijks leven? Nou, dat is één van de grote vragen die we gaan onderzoeken tijdens de allereerste editie van de Battle Beyond Science op 18 en 19 september dit jaar. Na het grote succes van de Battle for Science in februari, waar de staat van de wetenschap centraal stond, gaan we nu op zoek naar antwoorden op vragen waar de wetenschap geen of nog geen antwoord op heeft. Welke invloed hebben frequenties op ons lichaam, op onze gezondheid, op onze emoties en bewustzijn? En als die invloed er dan is, hoe werkt dat dan? Nou, dat gaan we dus visualiseren. Op grote schermen tonen we live hoe geluid, water, licht en trillingen zich vertalen naar indrukwekkende patronen en vormen. Niet alleen maar om het te zien, maar vooral ook om te leren, te ervaren en te voelen. Laat je dus verrassen door inspirerende lezingen, live-experimenten met onder andere remote viewing, telepathie, tijdreizen, kwantummechanica en sound healing sessies die wetenschap, verwondering en beleving samenbrengen. Met bijzondere gasten zoals de Britse wetenschapper John Stuart Reid, Erik Larakker, Marijn Poels, Baptiste de Paap, professor Pierre Capel, contactee Elena Danaan en vele andere. Stuk voor stuk sprekers die je zullen uitdagen om verder te kijken dan de grenzen van de traditionele wetenschap. Reserveer vandaag nog je ticket en beleef het allemaal op 18 of 19 september tijdens de allereerste editie van de Battle Beyond Science. Want alles heeft een frequentie.
Waarom zou je moeilijk doen met allerlei apps, wallets en bankrekeningen als dat in één account kan? Beheer al je euro's en crypto's eenvoudig in één app waarbij je altijd toegang hebt tot jouw geld. En de boodschappen betaal je eenvoudig met de betaalpas die je wereldwijd kunt gebruiken. Ga nu naar www.monflow.com/lighthouse en ontvang ook nog eens een gratis betaalpas.
Werk jij als ondernemer nog vanuit een eenmanszaak of VOF? Heb je een goedlopend bedrijf en maak je winst? Maar voel je je als een hamster in een hamsterrad? Je werkt hard, maar je komt geen stap vooruit. Dan kan dat heel goed kloppen. Want waar een eenmanszaak of VOF een fiscale fuik is en jou als ondernemer klein houdt, is een beschermende BV-structuur juist een fiscaal vliegwiel dat je helpt om iets op te bouwen en te groeien. Want met een beschermende BV-structuur betaal je tot wel 50% minder winstbelasting. Je houdt daardoor veel meer over om weer te investeren en al je bezittingen zijn optimaal beschermd. Wil je weten hoe dit zit voor jouw situatie? Vraag dan nu gratis het e-book aan van eenmanszaak naar de beschermende BV-structuur via vrbadvies.nl.
Let's get into this idea that, I find myself using war terms all the time. And this is a battle inside of my own home. I've said at times my father's a spiritual teacher, taught me to meditate, and my mother's more the Mohawk Native American warrior. It's in her blood. She's the one that would take me to protests. She's the one, my dad would participate a little bit, but their argument would always be, he would say, you're just feeding the darkness. You're just, by fighting it, you're feeding it. You're giving it attention. He said we should just meditate and and be present. And when I got involved in this issue, I had duality around that. I feel like I've succumbed to being a warrior. I've just decided my place in this world is to point out issues and try to get people to realize you have, enemies, even though they may be elusive. And I think we agree very much that there's not a they per se that is in lockstep or something. But what is the presence of battle, of believing that in order to get out of this prison we seem to be backing our way into a prison across this world, accepting vaccinations, right? We're accepting power being asserted upon us. And as much as I recognize speaking truth and all of those things, where is my place in this world? Do I feed the enemy? Do I feed darkness by saying I have to stand up against it, that I have to stand for something, I have to fight for something? Why do we use these words of war? Is there a benefit to them?
I think so, to a certain extent. And we have to ask the question in that context, like, yes, but who is the enemy? And as you said, we can situate the enemy at many levels. You can situate the enemy purely at the level of an evil elite who manipulates everything. There is a little bit of truth in that. There is some people who have a huge negative impact on the world. So there's a little bit of truth in it. But even these people are people. And maybe they are your enemy from a certain perspective, but they are also your friend because they are human beings like you. I think we should never forget that. And so another level at which we can situate the enemy is just the enemy inside ourselves. That's what all warrior cultures knew. The most important and the most dangerous enemy is your own ego. When you allow it to grow too strong, it will kill you. So there is also an enemy inside of ourselves. And then definitely, I think, it makes sense to situate the enemy at a metaphysical level. Every human being is tempted by a certain force, a destructive drive, which constantly tries to convince you to follow it. And so the enemy, we can situate the enemy at a lot of levels. And I think we should be very careful with situating it too much in certain other human beings outside of us. Of course, in certain situations, it makes sense to say that person there is my enemy. You have to say it under certain conditions. But even then, it's very important to continue to see that other human being also as a human being who fell prey to the real enemy, which is a metaphysical force, or at the psychological level, we could call it narcissism or the ego or something. So I think I would never want to allow myself to be completely absorbed by a theory which starts to believe that the origin, the root cause of all problems is situated in another human being. Because in that, when you analyze a situation like that, you will slowly start to believe that the solution to the problem is destroying this other human being or this other evil elite, and we all know.
Yeah.
Because we destroy this small group of people. We will still have problems with our wife, with our neighbors, with people on the other side. The problem will never be solved just by destroying a small group of people. As Solzhenitsyn said, the dividing line between good and evil, he said, runs through everyone's heart. It's everywhere. Yes. And that's why, in the first place, I think, we have to focus our attention on the choice we make in ourselves at the point where of good and evil.
Yeah. I've challenged my film and inconvenient study. At the heart of it is Dr. Marcus Zervos, this scientist that does this vaccinated versus unvaccinated study.
I don't think I know.
No? So I challenged the head of infectious disease to do a vaccinated versus unvaccinated study to see health outcomes, and it didn't turn out, I think, as they expected. And then he refused to publish it in the film. I took hidden cameras, and you know, people get really angry with him because he's not saving children. He's putting people at risk. There's other, moments in this I've pointed out throughout this work where we say that person's evil. They should have done that. And I'll say, raise your hand if you think that Dr. Marcus Zervos is evil because he wouldn't publish a study that would have shown us that vaccines are dangerous. And usually most of the audience will raise their hand. And then I'll say, all right, let me ask you a question. Is there anyone in this room that had knowledge, let's say if it was of COVID or of the dangers of the vaccine or masking or whatever, that didn't bring this topic up at the Thanksgiving table, at the Christmas table, because they didn't want to offend a brother or a mother or a father or a friend, or didn't want to ruffle anyone's feathers, right? Because isn't that the same crime? Because you see it as a larger scale, but in fact, he's at more risk. He's even more terrified. You couldn't even overcome your fear of offending someone in your own family. So if it's evil, we're all doing it. And I think that's
definitely. And we have to be respectful to every person's choice. Everyone has to choose him or herself at what moment he or she will be sincere and speak the truth. Nobody should decide. I should not decide in your place, and you should not decide in my place. That's our very own personal choice. The most fundamental choice is the moment we choose to speak our truth.
Yeah. So at this moment in time, do you have hope that we can make this adjustment, like to consciously move ourselves out of the totalitarian, mindset that we're paralleling, as I think you're describing, a paralysis that we're putting upon ourselves in many ways. We're the only ones that can break free of control from outside by, taking more risk with our daily experience with truth. What hope is there? Because in many ways, when I look around, I think people think everyone's afraid to speak their truth.
Yes, when you try to understand what's happening, and when you look with when you observe the world, and you will inevitably feel despair and say, like, look, there is no solution to this problem, and It seems as if there is no solution. Still, I really believe that there will be a solution. And for instance, something very important to see, and I mentioned that I think during the corona crisis as well, and nobody seems, I have the impression that most people don't believe me, but still, I believe it's true. Totalitarian systems always destroy themselves. So the most important thing is, you should try to make that they destroy themselves before they destroy you or all the people who go against the system. So, and now I think we start to see that process, the self-destructive process of totalitarian systems. We see, like for instance, the Epstein files. They show how certain secrets of the system, or the files show that the people who are in the center of the system, in one way or another, do not manage anymore to keep their dirty laundry hidden for the world. And that's simply because of this process, I think, that I described, for instance, in my book, I'm not sure, I think I described it in my book, like totalitarian systems, they transform all the love between people in collective narcissism, meaning that the process of mass formation weakens the social bond, also in the system. And in the end, there is no love anymore between the people who are in the upper layers of the system, and they don't succeed anymore in keeping up appearances, because you need some love in a group to keep up the appearances to the outer world.
To care enough. Right?
Yes, to care enough. You have to care a little bit about the other. And that's what we see now. The top of the system, it starts to become so incoherent. All love disappears, and that makes that they cannot keep up appearances anymore. That's the way in which a totalitarian system slowly destroys itself. Always. It happened in Nazi Germany, it happened in the Soviet Union, and it is inevitable. The process of mass formation extracts all the love from the bonds between individuals, and it invests all this love in the bond with the collective. It transforms it in collective narcissism, meaning that they will always destroy themselves. But again, the point is, will they first destroy themselves, or will they first destroy the people who do not go along with them and then destroy themselves? And then we return to the fact of truth-telling. People who oppose the system have to continue to do their best to be as sincere as possible and speak out in public space, because otherwise they will be destroyed first. And even when they speak out, some of them will be killed, of course, inevitably. You cannot fight a war without taking the risk of being killed. I mean, we have to accept that.
It's a bit like a virus, actually. One of the things I find fascinating about it, the more I've gotten into viruses, is a truly deadly virus can't survive. It kills itself, right?
Exactly.
Because it kills its host. It has no appreciation for its host. It becomes everything, and therefore it cannot procreate, cannot exist.
It's a perfect metaphor.
It has to become less virulent. It has to appreciate its host and keep its host alive, or it cannot.
Yes. So totalitarianism is a virus that is so deadly that it kills the people who allow it to enter their psychological system. Exactly.
Wow, that's really fascinating, and it's true, and it's the thing that we can be confident about. No matter how afraid we want to be, it's eating itself alive.
Yes. It's one way to understand it, why it is self-destructive. But in the end, I also think we have to learn to trust that there is something in this universe who will not allow that humanity ends in a completely inhumane way. That's not the end of humanity, I think. At least that's how I experience the world and our existence.
Je werkt hard en spaart, maar toch klopt er iets niet. Geld op de bank lijkt veilig, maar wordt steeds minder waard. Soms zit de oplossing in iets eenvoudigs. Iets wat al duizenden jaren waarde houdt. Goud en zilver. Bij Goud 999 koop je eenvoudig fysiek edelmetaal. Veilig en op jouw naam opgeslagen in Zwitserland. Meer dan 25.000 spaarders gingen je al voor. Wil je niet alleen sparen, maar ook jouw vermogen beschermen? Ga naar goud999safe.com/lighthouse en ontvang tijdelijk 5 gram zilver cadeau.
Waar komt ons eten vandaan en door wie wordt het gemaakt? Die vraag houdt mij al jaren bezig. Daarom ben ik gaan werken aan mijn eigen natuurlijke productlijn. Met ingrediënten van zorgvuldig geselecteerde boeren en afkomstig van dieren die een goed leven hebben gehad. Bij Real Roots beginnen we niet bij het product, maar bij de bron. We selecteren voedingsrijke ingrediënten uit de puurste leefomgevingen. Van vitamine A tot zink brengen we de kracht van dierlijke voeding samen. Orgaanvlees, bottenbouillon, colostrum, oesters en grasgevoerd rundvlees. In geconcentreerde vorm, zodat deze traditionele voedingsmiddelen op een eenvoudige en logische manier passen binnen een moderne dagelijkse routine. Ik ben Gino, oprichter van Real Roots. En ik geloof in de kracht van de natuur. Ontdek wat echte voedingsstoffen voor jou kunnen betekenen op realroots.nl met code Lighthouse.
Wij staan voor een digitale wereld waarin privacy, veiligheid en vrijheid van meningsuiting de norm zijn. Vind jij dat ook belangrijk? Kom dan nu in actie en ontvang gratis de Pro Privacy Checklist met bijna 100 praktische tips waarmee je vandaag nog je privacy kunt terugpakken. Ga naar proprivacy.io/checklist.
I even do believe in a personal God now.
What does that mean? What is a personal God?
Yeah, that's a good thing to ask. Yes. You know, I was reading this wonderful text of Max Planck. I don't know if you know Max Planck, the famous quantum physicist.
Yeah.
And some texts of Heisenberg about the soul. And, you know, they articulate in such a wonderful, modest and clear way how they started to believe in a personal God. They said, like, if you really start to realize that your rational understanding is always limited and that it can never understand the world around us. And the more you become aware of the fundamental shortcomings of your rational understanding, the more you will start to feel that there is something outside of you that shows you what you cannot discover yourself through your rational thinking. And that entity that is outside of you, that you can have a personal relationship with it, that you can, in a certain way, have a certain personal relationship with that entity outside that can guide you. I do believe, I experience life more and more as something ultimately in which you have to allow yourself to be guided by something outside of you, rather than believing in this, for me, delusional idea that your own ego can control the world around you and can tell you what the ultimate truth is or something.
Yeah. The pressures of that, I think, is what causes depression. You know, I've sort of said, and as I raise my kids now, my son's 17, and he's very smart. And I think that smart people in some ways have a disadvantage to what you're talking about. There's something about the greater your intelligence, the better you are at math, the more you start getting involved with the process to figure if you can mathematically solve chaos, to make it go away. And I think it's the hubris, it's the ego that, you know, the godfather of the vaccine program, Stanley Plotkin, these guys are setting out to end disease. And they start getting so fixated on it that they don't care how many kids are dying or being poisoned by it, because the end goal is, I'm going to end chaos. And I think it's a madness. And accepting you can't, you know, there's something that has to guide you. And I agree. I think that, you know, I feel, and I've said it, I feel like I walk in faith, that the work that I do, and I keep describing, as I'm trying to write my first book. It's really taking forever because I have no time, but I keep finding I can't leave God out of it. Even though all I've been involved is science and politics, my experience of life is that the opportunities that people are watching me go through, and it's been a pretty, you know, it's a relatively unbelievable story I've been involved in for the last 10 years, but that all started the moment I just realized I'm not that smart. I'm not capable of figuring everything out. I am vulnerable, you know. Once I really took that humility on and had to give some things to God, say, this is yours because it's way too big for me.
Yeah, exactly.
Suddenly doors, and you know, doors started opening. And I look back now and say, those doors must have always been opening to me, and I was totally blind to them and walking past them. But now each thing is, you know, every question that I truthfully, honestly ask now, it's like almost immediate. I feel like a door opens and I go, that must be where the answer lies. And for that question, usually it's immediately a solution that's in place. And I want everyone to experience that.
Yes.
I want, you know, people, and when people come up to me at events and they'll say, thank you for your sacrifice. This is something I, you know, that I think is a part of the lie, right? It's a part of the manipulation, is that a person who speaks their truth is making a sacrifice. That my life must be, people, they'll say, I mean, the attacks, everything, thank you for your sacrifice. And honestly, I want to say, I wish I could put them in my body for a day. I wish you could ride through my experience of life, because it is anything but a sacrifice. I get to be passionate. I get to have incredible conversations with people like you. But I think we're being trained to say, speaking your truth, this thing you're asking us to do, to, you know, be actively pursuing truth in our speech, no matter what happens. Those people that do that are making a sacrifice. So it makes us afraid to do it.
Yes, I think we are making a sacrifice in the fake world, in the world of appearances. So when you speak the truth, you lose something in the world of the ego, inevitably. So in the beginning, I think there is a sacrifice at the level of the ego, but it makes you win something in the real world. So meaning for me that indeed, in the end you say, but I haven't sacrificed nothing at all. I only made a sacrifice of something that was worth nothing. And so, but I think in the beginning, at least when I look at, for instance, at what I did in the Corona crisis, in the beginning, I was scared. And I said, like, I will lose something when I speak out. But after a while, you see, no, actually, the only thing you lost was garbage. And you got so much in return. So, I forgot what I wanted to add something.
Well, I suppose it's like a lizard or a snake shedding its skin. Do you know, sure, that was my skin. I had it, but I'm fresher. You know, I have a better, cleaner being. I mean, I had to walk away from my television career. Many of the doctors I talk to lose their licenses, and some are totally distraught. Others are like, I now, you know, I'm a health coach and I get to speak my truth and I don't have to worry about what the AMA says. So it just depends on, you know, do you take on the value of what that's brought? So, I guess you know, as we sort of wrap this up, you believe in a personal God that you can interact with, that's guiding you, that's actually has your personal interest, and not interest on a material level, but interests on a metaphysical level in mind, that it wants you to succeed. Is that thing that is success? Is it joy? Are we pursuing joy? How do I know I'm on the right track? Is it that I experience more joy? What is the purpose of life? Is it to experience more joy, to experience more knowledge? You know, what is it? If God is looking out for me, what is it God wants for me?
That's a good question. That's a good question. You know, I know what for me is what I try to follow. That I would call truth and sincerity. I try to speak in such a way that I can feel like, okay, these are really words these are really my words. I now articulate something that that exists for me. That's what I try to walk the path of sincerity. But what this leads to, and what I think it's something like joy. Yes, I think it's something like a feeling of peace and joy and absence of deep anxiety and despair. Yes, I think that's probably where this leads to. But in the end, I think it's always good to accept that maybe we don't really know, but still you have to go that way.
Yeah. So in your original concept of, totalitarianism, the psychology, deep anxiety and loneliness is what is used against you. It's the situation that is set up to then give you a solution that hypnotizes you, singling your mind on, this is how we solve this, and now you've been tricked. So do we look at, I think what you've just said is, if something I'm pursuing is making me anxious, and we were talking about this earlier, if what I'm seeing in the news program that I watch or the book that I'm reading, if it is really just bringing about more anxiety and a sense of helplessness or loneliness, do I start living a life that says, oh, wait a minute, this isn't good for me? Even if it's information that someone else had, do I use that as, the guardrails? Are there feelings that I should say, maybe that's not where I should be?
I don't know. I don't think so, to be honest.
Okay.
Because the moment where you speak the truth will always be a moment of anxiety.
Okay.
Because that's exactly like what people like St. John of the Cross said, when they were talking about the dark night of the soul. And like as soon as you decide to speak sincerely, you feel that your ego is taking a risk, that you feel that you will lose something because you speak out, and suddenly you say all kinds of things that the world doesn't want to hear, that people don't want to hear. So for me, speaking the truth always feels risky, inevitably. And if you do not feel a little bit of risk, usually it means that you're not speaking the truth. Because, for me, but after a while, you feel that quite to the opposite. Speaking the truth leads you to a state, after a while, where you feel no anxiety anymore, and where you feel the real peace, quietness, safety, and so on and so on. But initially, I think you always have to penetrate through what I often call the veil of appearances. And that's a moment of anxiety, I think. Because you feel like, I will say something that people maybe don't want to hear. Antique Greek culture said that when you practice a bold speech in public space, you will always take a risk. And they might even kill you because you do it. But that's the only way to be real. It's the only way to win something in the real world. So that's how I think for me, it's not a good indicator to choose a path where you feel no anxiety at all. I think also when you go in the right direction, you will experience these moments where you have the feeling like, okay, I have to take a risk here, and my ego gets anxious.
Then I suppose look for that feeling of release once you've gotten through it. If you're not getting that, maybe we need to reassess.
Yes, think so. I think so. And the more you go through the cycle, the more you start to know the process, the more you know, okay, now I have to go through it. I have to go through the wall of anxiety, because after that, I will find something of who I really am, for instance.
Beautiful. Mattias.
Thank you so much. It was a pleasure.
Op dit exacte moment bewegen er miljoenen onzichtbare frequenties door jouw lichaam en de ruimte om je heen. Radiogolven, wifi, bluetooth, licht en geluid, magnetische velden en misschien zelfs signalen die we nog niet volledig begrijpen. Je ziet ze niet, je hoort ze niet Je voelt ze misschien onbewust, maar wat als ze meer invloed hebben op je leven dan je beseft? Wat is eigenlijk een frequentie? En als alles in het universum trilt, resoneert en een eigen frequentie heeft, welke rol spelen deze onzichtbare krachten dan in ons dagelijks leven? Nou, dat is één van de grote vragen die we gaan onderzoeken tijdens de allereerste editie van de Battle Beyond Science op 18 en 19 september dit jaar. Na het grote succes van de Battle for Science in februari, waar de staat van de wetenschap centraal stond, gaan we nu op zoek naar antwoorden op vragen waar de wetenschap geen of nog geen antwoord op heeft. Welke invloed hebben frequenties op ons lichaam, op onze gezondheid, op onze emoties en bewustzijn? En als die invloed er dan is, hoe werkt dat dan? Nou, dat gaan we dus visualiseren. Op grote schermen tonen we live hoe geluid, water, licht en trillingen zich vertalen naar indrukwekkende patronen en vormen. Niet alleen maar om het te zien, maar vooral ook om te leren, te ervaren en te voelen. Laat je dus verrassen door inspirerende lezingen, live-experimenten met onder andere remote viewing, telepathie, tijdreizen, kwantummechanica en sound healing sessies die wetenschap, verwondering en beleving samenbrengen. Met bijzondere gasten zoals de Britse wetenschapper John Stuart Reid, Erik Larakker, Marijn Poels, Baptiste de Paap, professor Pierre Capel, contactee Elena Danaan en vele andere. Stuk voor stuk sprekers die je zullen uitdagen om verder te kijken dan de grenzen van de traditionele wetenschap. Reserveer vandaag nog je ticket en beleef het allemaal op 18 of 19 september tijdens de allereerste editie van de Battle Beyond Science. Want alles heeft een frequentie.
This program is brought to you by Monflow, ITAR Innovative Technology, Real Root Supplements, Pro Privacy, Goud 999 en VRB, van eenmanszaak naar BV.